Hold up. They trying to kick us out of here. I ain't ready to fucking leave. They think they gonna make us leave without doing the classic? Fuck that!
Bust a bus. 9-7. Hot shit. Check it out. Hit you with no delaying, so what you saying, yo? Silly with my 9 milli with the dilly, yo. When I be on the mic, yes, I do my duty, yo. While up in the club like we wild.
His drive is just impeccable. He just has a great drive. He's a great businessman, and he loves it.
He has dope albums. He has a better stage show than most, and his cadences, different flows, and energy are second to none.
He always trying to outdo the last thing he did, and always looking for perfection, and to me, that's a genius.
Busta's energy is like no other. When he gets on that stage, he commands respect. The aggressiveness is like no other, and of course, his lyrical game is superb just as well.
Like a bunch of young black billionaires. You run me and my done second to one. Lost a little
Busta is one of the last people, I think, in this game that's really still gets excited about music like it's the first time hearing it. Like, when he hears a beat that he likes, it's like unmatchable excitement for hearing that beat and his desire to want to get on that and rap on it.
We show. Tempo. We show. The whole time unit is dangerous.
You know, I always felt like I wanted to do music before I had the opportunity to do it. Being 9, 10, 12 years old, listening to Africa, Islam, and Red Alert on WHBI as a college station from 2 to 5 in the morning. I used to do pause tapes of their shows of the live battles between Cold Crush Brothers and the Force MDs, who were at that time known as the Force MCs, and I would just go to school and lie to my friends like I was actually at these battles in person, knowing damn well I wasn't old enough to be up past 9 o'clock on a school night. I was so caught up in my imagination of living that experience that I never even allowed myself to tap out of that. I was actually claiming the divine. I was saying that I'm gonna be that dude one day, and nobody can't tell me shit. Like, I don't care if I sound crazy, I don't care if I look crazy, I don't care if I feel crazy. I'm pretty much married to this idea.
The birthplace of hip hop is really the Bronx, but New York is New York. It's home for hip hop.
You know, we was the forerunners of it. You know what I'm saying? It was new. Rap was fairly new, and New York was on the forefront of that.
There's a long list of great artists that came out in the 80s that laid the foundation for the groups in the 90s. Back in 85, 86, you had Run DMC, Beastie Boys, along with Houdini and LL Cool J. You know, basically Rush Management artists, you know what I'm saying, a lot of Def Jam artists that were coming out. And it was an opportunity for a lot of black people to get money, you know what I'm saying? A lot of black youth struggled, you know what I'm saying, in the ghettos of New York City to put out their music, and there was a lot of independent record labels. Everybody's approach was original, and it definitely paid off that people were putting out unique sounds and having fun with it. It was just a great feeling, you know what I'm saying, to be a part of music history and laying the lineage of hip-hop culture.
Come on, hey, come on, hey. Yeah, baby boy, put a surprise. You suck a big nigga cold over your eyes. Hey, my nigga kicking by the top of the lies. Stop it, smoke out.
First time I heard Busta Rhymes rap, he was like maybe 12, 13 years old, and he would do it was a rap / little reggae, and his name was Chirpy Ruff. Busta was drumming when he was a kid. He was breakdancing with him and his brother Shy.
When I first moved to Long Island from East Flatbush, Brooklyn, I was 12. By 13 or 14, they had this basketball classics event at Nassau Coliseum. In between the games, they would have these concerts. Dana Dane walked out there with a big fur coat on and 2 like Alaskan coyotes or something like. They just looked like these beautiful white coyotes. wasn't actual coyotes, it was huskies, like Alaskan huskies or something.
Once upon a time, Brooklyn was the scene. In the project that they call Fort Greene.
His fur coat was matching the fur on the dogs. And he had his Kango on, and his fur on his Kango was matching his coat and the fur on the dogs. And that shit just looked so grand to me. I was just like, wow, this is what an idea behind a bowl of cereal, which was brought about as a result of a blunt munchie, because he probably smoked a little joint and just came up with this idea. That concert made me want it that much more.
Busta used to live out in Brooklyn with his father. Then, you know, getting all kind of trouble as little guys and stuff. And then they moved him out to Long Island to his mama. And, you know, mama ain't having it. Mama Green ain't having it. So she kind of straightened him out. Over there, he met Charlie Brown, Dinko, his cousin Milo. And they put a force together and they call it the Leaders of the New School.
The first time I heard Leaders of the New School was the first time I heard them. You know, it was incredible. The Leaders of the New School is just like known for great performances, the interplay between the MCs, you know, really like furious paced rhymes and stuff. So it was, you know, they the shit.
They remind me of what the Cold Crush Brothers was at one time. It was like Cold Crush, Force MDs equals Leaders of the New School. They all could MC. They had their harmony, but then they'd rip the mic line for line, verse for verse.
When I met Busta Rhymes in school, he was the first member that I ended up working with. And this is the second member that was part of Leaders of the New School, Dinko D, who was also in school with us back on Jerusalem Avenue in New York, you know what I'm saying, in Nassau County, LI.
And we were all doing our own separate thing, but Brown brought the group together and made it work, Leaders of the New School.
And those are our roots from 510 South Franklin with Public Enemy, because those are our mentors, Chuck D, Flavor Flav, the S1Ws, and Professor Griff, Hank Shockley and Keith Shockley, and everybody else down with the PE posse. We got an opportunity to go into the studio and work with them through a rap contest that they had at the Act Theater in Hempstead, and me and Busta were there, and we didn't get a chance to rock. So we ended up going to the studio, and they saw me, Dinko, and Busta together. Busta, he was playing the drums while I was rhyming, and they was like, yo, y'all brothers need to be Leaders of the New School, you know what I mean? And that's how it started.
It's just another case of that OPTA. Busta Rhymes, the mighty infamous, always misbehaving and mischievous.
You know, Chuck D gave me my name. Chuck D gave us the name Leaders of the New School. Public Enemy was the #1 shit at the time. And they allowed us the opportunity to learn what it was to be full package artists.
Yes, the rhythm's a rebel. Without a pause, I'm lowering my level.
They taught us the understanding of concept, lyrics, attitude, appearance, music, and performance. Like, there's no better advice or guidance that you can get if you're trying to be in the music industry, especially when you're getting it firsthand from a Chuck D, Hank Shockley, and Flavor Flav, and Eric Vietnam Sadler, and Wizard KG, which is the whole Bomb Squad crew in addition to the PE family. That Public Enemy thing was something else. They brought theater to the hip-hop performance. You got them S1Ws up there that ain't really ever touch a mic outside of Griff, but they had such a significant role, and these routines and martial arts and militants and just power and strength and shit that they exemplified, it was such a key component to the show. You know, Terminator X being a key component as a DJ, he just wasn't a DJ. They made it prominent that people acknowledged him and his presence. Flav being the proper balance to the intensity of Chuck D. That whole chemistry, just to even think, to make sure that all of the different emotions that people deal with were actually on stage for you to visualize at the same time, was some genius shit. And they taught us that. Leaders of the New School put the first album out in 1991. But we wasn't fast rapping at that time. Like, the speed rap thing really wasn't happening like that at that time. We was just rhyming to whatever the tempo or the beats were. But I think energy was something that was more exemplified in the music, because we were just groomed to prioritize displaying the passion through the song. It wasn't just about rhyming on the beat. It was about making sure that your shit touched the soul of the people, touched the soul of the street. So even if it was a calm record or a slow record, you would get a performance display that made the actual slow or medium tempo record feel like a high energy record and give people their money's worth and their time's worth.
It was Q-Tip's idea to do a record with Leaders. Scenario is definitely a big hit, and it's definitely a big piece of hip-hop culture coming from the 90s.
Q-Tip had a relationship with him when Q-Tip used to go to high school right over here at Murray Bertram, and Busta used to go to high school over here at Westinghouse.
Q-Tip was definitely on point with arranging the music, and vocally, we just came to the table and said, you know, let's have something where it's a collaboration, effort.
Everybody's writing their rhymes and so forth, hiding it from each other because we want to outdo each other. It was very competitive.
Each man, as they wrote their verse there that day, went into the studio, and it was like a judge and jury, you know, the rest of the crew would watch each man come out, and it was like the reaction, everybody's verse was just so great.
And everybody laid their verses or said their verses right before they went in the booth. Busta didn't say his verse, he just went in the booth. And automatically, we was like, oh, he's going last.
Busta and Q-Tip got together and put the end of the song together.
As I combine all the juice from the
Bring it back up.
half a whip.
You know, nowadays artists want to be on the front of the record because people have ADD and DJs change the record quickly. Back then, it was to close the record, and we had him close the record.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario?
Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo.
Q-Tip set him up perfectly because it was like he was introducing him all over again. He's always been in a class by himself, hence the reason when he does cameos on records, he always goes last, period, because you know he's gonna steal the show. I like to call him the James Brown of hip-hop, because there was no getting on stage after James Brown back in the days. That's the same thing with Bus.
When I travel through the turn, I roll with the squadron. Row, like a dungeon dragon. Change your little jaws cause your pants are sagging.
Leaders of the New School were doing an interview for MTV, and all hell broke loose pretty much. We were in Vermont or something like that, and Busta had called us to let us know that Leaders was gonna break up or whatever. So, you know, he was in limbo as far as what he was gonna do. Because to be honest, he was made to be a solo artist. At least that's how it seems. But he never really wanted to go solo. He really loved this group. We were kind of going through our little growing pains as well. But theirs was out of control by that time.
He just was different from the rest of them. He always painted his pictures with bright colors. And no matter who was rapping on that track, Busta would stand out. And he just had the star quality.
Beginning of 1996, the Coming album, that was when everything started.
I remember when I first heard Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Could See, I knew it was gonna be a huge record off top.
It's myself. Come on, yeah, come on. Yeah, nigga, what a surprise. Give you something, make a nigga close both of your eyes. All my niggas getting money capitalized.
Are you ready to get on? Ooh, me. And cause such a reaction, making all my people go, ooh, wee. So let me blow this bitch. Y'all niggas know when we come, we be making it fly. The way we making it hot to make a nigga wanna stop.
Break your neck, whoa.
Get money, get cash, that check for me. All my niggas just bust your check for me. Everybody from every club, bang your head till you break your motherfucking neck for me.
Baby, if you give it to me, I'll give it to you. As long as you want, you know I got it.
Baby, if you give it to me, I'll give it to you.
While she trying to touch it, I was peeping it out. She turned around and was trying to put my dick in the mouth. I let her
touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, stop, format it.
Step up in the club and then he's up and up, it's mad as shit. The way I make the people want sing the hook in Arabic.
You know, I was always told that you're one hit record away from a successful career, but I never really believed in that, because nowadays one hit record alone doesn't make people believe in you enough. They gotta see some things that turns them into believers and makes them wholehearted fans. I think something shifted dynamically when Look at Me Now came out. You know, just the way my kids and just the kids in general embraced that record, it kind of reintroduced Busta Rhymes to the new generation.
Every time I come, a nigga gotta set it, then I gotta go, and then I gotta get it, then I gotta blow, and then I gotta shut it. Any little thing a nigga think that he be doing, cause it doesn't matter, cause I'm gonna dead it. Then I'm gonna murder everything and anything about a boom, about a bing. I gotta do a lot of things to make it clearer to a couple niggas that I always win, and then I gotta get it again and again and again.
That rapid flow style of MCing or rhyming was something that I've always done for years. The first time I actually did it on a record was on an album by my group, Leaders of the New School, that we put out in 1992 called Daily Reminder. As time passed, I just got better with doing it.
Following my courses, but I'm gonna back up horses.
The kids loved it, the people love it. They always find it extremely amazing when they see me do it live because they can't believe that I'm actually doing
You ain't
it.
even gotta ask if you already know another bangers what you're gonna get. When I'm bouncing the niggas head, so I got magic. Man, the niggas spit presto. And if you really with me, let me hear the let's go. Ride with a nigga like you want a metro. You already know what kill anyone, anywhere, anything.
My ability to be able to articulate so clearly, even at a pace like that, is something that I think that the kids damn near turned into a game.
DJ wanna bring it back and then they wanna make another brother popping and no food up in the cupboard. See the way I got him feeling, no, I got a brother running for the way that I be getting on the beat and I be dummy.
Easy.
It just became such a challenge for them to be able to do it, try to learn the verse and post their own rendition of the verse on YouTube, and just the views that the video got. So it's just crazy. It's not surprising to me that artists from 20 years ago are back in the forefront, because a lot of artists that are in the forefront now that was around from 20 years ago, they were never not in the forefront, because it's usually hard to come back once you lose it altogether.
You got nerve, little nigga. See me when I pull up to the curb, little nigga. My money up, sir, little nigga. While I count it all, please do not disturb, little nigga.
Me, Doe, and Bus, we are in the studio together. He pulled up a Jalil beat, and we just started writing, and we worked on the hook. And first it was a Brinks truck, but then somebody else put something out with using Brinks trucks. So that's how we eventually came up with King Tut. You know, Bus is known for all the crazy jewelry, so it just fitted. You know what I'm saying? And us, we kings. You know, so hey, it's the right thing.
I look fucking like King Tut.
I'm no lawyer, but they only bring them bottles by the cases.
You got nerve, little nigga.
Busta had his own sound, his own chemistry within himself. He knew what he wanted to do, and he never backs down from it. So if you're gonna work for Busta and you don't come prepared, understanding what he wants to accomplish, you might lose your job right away, straight up.
Get the hottest beats, niggas wish that they could rhyme on it. I got the hottest watch, ain't even set the time on it.
Even the new dudes understood that in doing a record with Busta Rhymes or for Busta Rhymes, it has to meet a certain standard. Because I ain't just trying to do what's cool, I'm trying to do what's groundbreaking.
These niggas got it mixed up.
Overall, in hip-hop in general, I don't believe there's anyone else that's stayed relevant this long in the game who's done as many albums as he's done and stayed at this level of success.
I said, wait! Stop the party! Go! Oh! Yeah! Oh! Say what?
His consistency makes him relevant. You know, the fact that he's able to adapt to the new styles, the new environment, his lyrical content, the fact that he can keep up with the youngest and the best.
The new album is the release of the Dragon. That's all I'm gonna say. It's the release of the Dragon. The new album, forget about it.
Yeah, we see you bust a bottle, let your little table stuntin', and we coming by the bar and get the fucking up your front and putting pressure on them. We putting pressure on them. We putting pressure on them. We putting pressure on them. Okay, we see you when you're Phantom Mac and cocky with your misses. Yeah, you ballin' till you see us pull up and none of them bitches putting pressure.
I don't know, this guy don't wanna stop. He's not gonna stop. I don't think it was meant for him to stop.
Please collect G's, connect Z's. Direct the weed to the smoke fest. Take the toke. Yes!
You know, the one lesson that I've learned the most was to always strive for perfection, as much as perfection probably isn't something that's accomplishable. And never allow any one thing or many things to get in the way of you allowing yourself to secure your own win. It's always about securing your win. And in the process of securing the win, you got to also understand what it is to embrace loss. I'm a strong believer of doing what you put your mind to and watching it come to fruition in a very real, tangible way. That's how it pretty much always worked for me. If you hot, you setting a standard, you cutting edge, you groundbreaking, you setting them trends, you know, you become a part of pop culture. You become those things that people want to be like. It's just deeper than just loving your music. They want to be like you.
See the way we on it, we all up in the race, and you know we gotta gonna try to keep up with the pace, and we struggle in the hustle and the setting and the getting it. You know we gotta do it, take it to another place, gotta taste it, and I gotta grab it, and I gotta cut all through this traffic. Just to be at the top of the dome, but I know I gotta have it.
I think y'all should make more noise than that right there. I was done in the studio.
What you gonna do next?
How it's done in the studio, it's done on stage.